Trump holds full leverage over Putin. Putin signals potential peace summit in Budapest, and how Russia accused of executing Ukrainian Pope near Pokrovsk. That is news next. US President Donald Trump has all the leverage needed to pressure Russian dictator Vladimir Putin into signing a peace agreement with Ukraine, Russian political analyst Ivan Preobrazhensky said. Trump seeks a deal at any cost.
I think Trump will, again and again, wave after wave, try to negotiate with Putin on Putin's terms. But at the same time, it's quite likely that sanctions and some alternative pressure mechanisms will gradually increase. He will not abandon this path, because it's the simplest one.
According to him, Trump does not need real peace. What matters to him is a deal signed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Putin.
Whether it will be fulfilled or not, or what will be written in it specifically, this, frankly, does not interest him at all. He needs to go to the podium and say, "I made peace."
At the same time, he emphasized that Trump cannot and does not want to fully give up Ukraine, because that would cause serious political problems at home, political and geographic pressure on the Kremlin. Preobrazhensky added that Trump has tools for political and geographic pressure on the Kremlin.
That is, cutting off the Kremlin's tails or tentacles around the world. Well, for instance, Trump has his own problem with Venezuela. At the same time, Venezuela is a huge source of black income for the Kremlin, essentially a black oil cash box. If Trump eventually destroys the Maduro regime, the Kremlin will lose one of its economic and foreign policy resources, and it will become clear that it could not protect someone.
Problems for Russia in Africa and Latin America. He also said that the Kremlin will face problems in Africa and Latin America.
In Mali, some al-Qaeda groups, along with Tuaregs, blocked the capital, where the military junta sits. This junta cooperates with Putin and transferred to the Russians a huge number of local mines with minerals.
The political analyst added, if this military junta is eventually toppled, then Russia will have a major loss of income that informally goes to the war to purchase, for example, illegal technologies and goods that it does not produce. According to Preobrazhensky, this will weaken Russia's position in the broader Sahara region. Countries and local groups will begin turning away from Moscow because it will no longer be able to deliver the security it has promised. Sanctions remain an essential tool. He also noted that sanctions remain a key pressure mechanism, especially the recent targeted ones. The expert concluded, these are probably the same sanctions that were introduced at the beginning of the full-scale aggression, that is, before the spring of 2022. These are the strongest real sanctions among those ever introduced. Russian dictator Vladimir Putin did not rule out that talks between Russia and the US could lead to a peace summit in the Hungarian capital, Budapest. The Kremlin dictator made the statement during a meeting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Putin thanked the Hungarian leader for offering his country's capital as a diplomatic venue.
If during our talks it comes to using Budapest as a venue, I would be very glad and want to thank you for your willingness to support this.
From my perspective, Vladimir Putin continues to behave like a leader who relies on terror-driven tactics and coercive pressure, both domestically and internationally, to advance his political objectives. His recurrent pattern of exploiting diplomatic language to create the illusion of constructive engagement has long served as a tool to stall, diffuse criticism, and gain strategic advantage without making any substantive concessions. His latest comments about the possibility of a peace summit in Budapest made during his meeting with Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban strongly resemble this familiar strategy. Rather than signaling a genuine commitment to ending the war, the remarks appear designed to project openness while effectively delaying meaningful progress. This tactic allows him to maintain the appearance of diplomacy even as Russia's actions on the ground continue to contradict the notion of sincere negotiation. In this context, Putin's statement comes across not a step toward peace, but as yet another calculated move to buy time, manipulate the narrative, and preserve leverage under the guise of dialogue. About Orban's visit to Moscow, on Friday, November 28th, a Hungarian delegation led by Prime Minister Viktor Orban arrived in the Kremlin for talks with Putin. Hungarian Foreign Minister Péter Szijjártó also accompanied Orban to Moscow. Before the meeting with the Kremlin dictator, Orban said that the main goal of his visit was to ensure Hungary's energy security. During the meeting, the Prime Minister immediately raised the topic of Ukraine and complained about the consequences of the war for Hungary. He stated that Hungary is ready to provide a venue for negotiations regarding Ukraine. Russian forces killed a Ukrainian armed forces service member they had taken prisoner in the Pokrovsk direction. The prosecutor's office has opened an investigation, according to the Donetsk Regional Prosecutor's Office. The incident took place in November 2025. According to the agency, during an assault on positions near the village of Hnativka in the Pokrovsk district, Russian forces surrounded and captured a Ukrainian service member. One of the Russian troops tied his hands while another beat him. When the unarmed defender stopped responding, they killed him. The prosecutor's office emphasized that intentionally killing prisoners of war is a grave violation of the Geneva Conventions and is classified as a serious international crime. Prosecutors have now launched a pre-trial investigation under Part 2 of Article 438 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, a war crime that resulted in a person's death. Urgent investigative actions are underway to establish all circumstances of the incident and identify the individuals responsible. Other Russian war crimes. Russian occupiers continue to systematically commit war crimes in Ukraine. On November 19th, in the Pokrovsk district of the Donetsk region, occupiers killed 5 Ukrainian prisoners of war near the settlement of Kotlene. When the Ukrainian defenders were disarmed and lying face down, one of the occupiers opened fire and killed them. There are also reports of Ukrainian soldiers being killed in captivity in the Zaporizhia region. On November 15th, near the outskirts of Zatisha, Russian troops killed 2 Ukrainian service members. On November 16th, in the Hulaypole direction of the Zaporizhia region, Russian forces committed another war crime against Ukrainian service members. On November 14th, occupiers killed 3 captured Ukrainian fighters. The reported killing of Ukrainian prisoners of war is a horrifying reminder of how profoundly Russia's aggression continues to violate the most basic norms of international humanitarian law. These accounts reflect not isolated misconduct, but a broader pattern of brutality that erodes any remaining pretense of lawful conduct on the battlefield. The deliberate targeting of captives, people who are defenseless, by definition strikes at the core of the Geneva Conventions and underscores the urgency of firm international accountability. Each such incident further demonstrates the extent to which Russian forces operate with impunity and how essential it is for the global community to support through investigations, prosecutions, and documentation of every war crime committed. This sustained campaign of cruelty only reinforces the moral and legal imperative to ensure justice for the victims, consequences for the perpetrators, and unwavering support for Ukraine in its fight against a state that has repeatedly demonstrated contempt for human life and international norms. On the night of November 28th, fighters of the Magyar's burst unit attacked and disabled the Saratov oil refinery in Russia. In total, 10 targets across Russian territory were struck during the night. According to the commander of the Ukrainians' unmanned systems forces, Robert Magyar Brody. According to Brody, the strike successfully hit the Saratov refinery of Rosneft, which produces more than 20 types of petroleum products. Several 500 kilovolts Russian substations were also targeted from temporarily occupied Luhansk to the Rostov region.
In total, on the night of November 28th, the deep strike forces of the drone forces engaged 10 critical military and energy infrastructure targets of the occupier, covering an unlimited geographical area.
Brody added that the strikes were carried out by the 1st Separate Drone Forces Center, formerly the 14th Drone Regiment, and the Graf Unit.
Gasoline is becoming scarce in the swamps, and gas and oil are burning quickly. All this is moving toward complete darkness, a cold and long winter. Blackie in the swamps. That's not scary. More intense and louder actions are coming.
It is worth noting that on the night of November 28, explosions were reported across Russia and on temporarily occupied Ukrainian territories. Russian sources complained about drone attacks with loud explosions heard in Saratov and temporarily occupied Crimea. By morning, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine confirmed that overnight on November 27th to 28th, the defense forces successfully hit the oil refinery in the Saratov region, a UAV storage facility at the Saki airfield, and other occupied targets. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Support Ukraine, like and subscribe.